Welcome to the Panic Button. I'm Nina.
I'm blind.
And today we're talking about Gavin Newsom pulling some shit.
Okay.
So California this week became the first state to prohibit school policies that require employees to report students' sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression without their consent. So the law was signed by Gavin Newsom on Monday and ensures schools can't require teachers and staff to notify parents of their children's LGBTQ identities. It takes aim at a growing conservative effort to require school districts to report students' pronouns or name changes, for instance, to parents.
So, what's the goal here? To hide what their children are doing for parents? Right.
To keep secrets between the schools and the children of these parents. Yeah.
You see, this is just very complicated to me because they say if you're trans, then your dead name will hurt you and all this crap, but your parents can't know that it's your dead name. And so, wouldn't this increase the unaliving rates, hypothetically?
Well, it's so interesting that you mentioned that because I do have an article here by the Washington Examiner, and it says this. The parents of a Florida elementary school student are suing their daughter's school district after their child attempted to commit suicide following the school's efforts to orchestrate her secret transition to a male gender identity. So this is one out of many other instances where this similar thing has happened in different school districts in different states. So what it proves to me is that these children are going through some sort of mental anguish, and instead of talking to the parents about what their child is going through, they're hiding it instead. It's like California automatically assumes that every parent is evil and we have to protect their children from them, is what it sounds like.
Not to get too personal, but when I was in school, I wasn't eating. Mm-hmm. So they sent me to the guidance counselor, who then called my parent. So, respectfully, if these kids were anorexic or if these kids were self-harming, would you not notify the parents? Because that's what I hear.
I don't know how it works in California schools. Do they hide everything from the parents, or is it just this gender nonsense?
That's my point, is, if you're convincing someone to change their body and the way they see themselves, but you're not telling their parent, you don't think that that's going to cause a disconnect?
Do you say convincing them to change their gender? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, because they were helping this child.
Right. Now, leaving this instance aside, for example, and just using the ban.
The ban on...
Yeah. What they're saying is not that they're manipulating children to transition, even though I think they are. They're saying that they're hiding information from the parents that the children are telling the school in order to protect them from their parents, which sounds really strange to me.
It does sound very strange.
But that's the point of it, which makes no sense. I love how they say takes aim at a growing conservative effort to require school districts to report students' pronouns, name changes, for instance, to parents. So if your child, when kids go through this whole gender identity crisis, where they think they're a different gender, they want to change their pronouns, non-binary, there's something underneath that's obviously going on. Because this doesn't just come out of nowhere.
Well, like I said, now you're living two lives and you're a child. It's difficult for adults to live double lives, like having two families, cheating, things like that. It always gets messy. Mm-hmm. As an adult. So as a child, having two, as someone who hid their gayness from their parents, after trying to come out, it's detrimental to your mental health. You feel like you're lying. You feel like you're losing your family because you're not actually truthful with your family.
Yeah.
There's a million ways you feel if you actually have something separating you from your family, if you have to keep your secret. And I know from experience. And I'm just saying that, maybe you don't call the school, call home to be like, oh, Janie is going by, Jimmy during playtime. Maybe you don't call for that. But if they're seriously talking about that they're a boy, then I'd mention it to the parents, because that's something that, number one, you don't know how the parents are going to take. You don't know that they're going to take it negatively, especially in 2024 in California. You're assuming they'll take it negatively, which is putting a lot of negative impressions on parents, because there's a lot of parents who obviously aren't against it, or else we wouldn't have all these trans kids.
What it's proving to the kids is that your parents are bad, and that's why we have to hide this stuff.
Yeah, but like not all parents are like that.
I know, but they're automatically assuming that their parents are going to be evil. That's why we have to hide. We have to keep secrets, which is really freaking creepy.
Also, if this was so good for them, why would you hide it from the parents? Because then you'd tell the parents, and if they didn't follow the correct procedures, it would be considered child abuse. You don't have to restrain from telling the parents. You are a mandated reporter. If you call the school, if the school calls home and says, hey, Timmy thinks his name is Tanya, we're going to call him Tanya.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid comes in the next day with bruises, you can call the cops and get that kid removed from that place, and then Tanya can be Tanya as long as they want to be Tanya. It's not putting any trust in the systems that be, and it's not putting any trust in families.
Yes. Listen to this. Okay. A spokesperson for Newsom said this. This law helps keep children safe while protecting the critical role of the parents. I don't know how that's fucking possible. It protects the child-parent relationship by preventing politicians and school staff from inappropriately intervening in family matters and attempting to control if, when, and how families have deeply personal conversations. Excuse me? Why are there conversations about LGBTQ in the classroom to begin with? I mean,
You know what never happened in school? No one ever called my parents and said Jess is gay. They said Jess isn't eating. Jess is exhibiting signs of self-harm. Jess might need to go to a therapist. But they never said Jess was kissing girls. No one ever told my parents that. I did. I told them at the right times. They weren't the right times in but you know.
Yeah.
That they never, and I came from a conservative area. They never told my parents that because it's not their business. But their business is whatever comorbidities come with it.
And I have a question for you. Have you ever heard of one transsexual trans person who only had gender dysphoria and no other underlying issues mentally?
No, and have you also ever heard of someone having gender dysphoria only at school?
Gender dysphoria is a mental issue that should be talked about with the parents because it's a mental issue. And usually one mental issue doesn't happen in one person's brain. It's usually more than just one. And if you don't take care of them and you just keep hiding it from the parents, how are the parents supposed to help their kid? You are doing they're assuming that they're going to do a better job than the parents. It's how it's coming across.
Yes, and like I said, in the situations that were self-harming to myself, they told my parents. When it was the fact that I was gay, despite that I was like one of two lesbians there, they didn't say anything. Did they call your parents when you were outed?
No, the only time they called my parents is when I had cuts on my arms.
Because you were a harm to yourself.
Yeah.
They didn't say, hey, everyone's calling Nina a dyke.
No, but they called me into the office personally and said that, like, there was posters all over the school about me being a dyke.
Yeah, I mean, I had them call me in to
But they didn't call my parents about that.
No, they talked to you personally because, I mean, that was a personal issue at school.
But being gay isn't a mental health condition.
No, they talked
When
to
you
you
have
because
gender issues,
you were
have
being
mental
bullied.
health conditions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't like, and if it was like severe, like you were getting beaten, then they would have called.
Then
your
they
parents.
would have called my parents. Yeah.
But because it was just physical, they were like physical posters. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was pulled into the office and told I risked my integrity bringing a chick to prom. Like there's.
Well, that's none of their business.
But they never called my parents. That's the thing. They would take those issues are not between you and your parents. Those issues are between you and whoever had the issue that you're gay.
Yeah.
And so, in those individual cases, they did not contact our parents, though we were both in school. But they did for you when you were and for me when I wasn't eating.
Because we had mental health issues.
Yes.
Which, when a child is changing their pronouns, that's a mental health issue. Something's going on in the brain. Something's going on there that's not right. And to say that you're protecting children, it makes no sense. The law helps children.
This law should never be in existence. This law, like I said from the get-go, it's the teacher has no business saying, Timmy at playtime went by Tanya. What the are you caring?
Timmy at playtime went by John Cena.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's none of your business. unless the kid is like, I feel like I can't tell my parents this. Could you call my parents? Even then, that's kind of stepping the line, but you still at least have the kid being like, I want to do this. But no teacher, I come from a family of teachers, no teacher's calling home and being like, you have a homosexual, you have a tranny for a kid. No one's doing that.
Not unless
And
there's
they
some
shouldn't
other
be.
mental health thing going
No,
on.
if the kid's not eating, if the kid shows up with physical marks on their body, if they have self-inflicting, like kids will stab themselves with pencils and pull out their hair. If the kid's doing stuff like that, they'll contact home. That's what it means to be a mandated reporter. You don't report sexuality, you report harm.
Yes. Okay, there is a video for us to react to.
Okay.
Okay. Of course, a man that... Like, why do they always pick the ones that don't pass the most to talk to?
Because they're the ones that want to talk.
It gives me a very icky feeling in my stomach when I see men like this who look like that freaking
Shop teacher.
the shop teacher or that creep who used to be a drug addict, but now he's trans and he's trying to talk to kids. It's not Jeffrey Marsh, it's the other one. It's the cake pop, I'd remove my nuts guy in Disney. You know what I'm talking about. I know you do.
I do, it's just...
I was talking to them. They know. They know.
People were just existing. Sabrina Naves came out as transgender in 2018, while she is now the president of P-Flag Sacramento, an LGBTQ support group. When she was younger, she was not ready to be open.
I'm just curious, for example, where the fuck are all the gays and lesbians? Why is everything being controlled by mentally ill men who think they're women, who aren't trans, by the way? Majority of them are autogynephiles. And I'm definitely going to do a video about that because I went down the rabbit hole and come to find out we don't know where AGP starts and transsexual ends.
About who she was.
I know that if I had been forcibly outed to my parents, that would have definitely been an issue of safety for me.
That's why Naves is thrilled Governor
Bull.
Like I said, I did not tell the school. The school didn't tell my parents. I told my parents, and that was my own safety risk. Whatever you decide to do in your life is your own safety risk. Walking into the women's bathroom like you do is a f***ing safety risk. No one is calling home, and if they are, they shouldn't be a teacher.
A safety risk to the women in the bathroom.
The only gay people since before your time have had a hard time coming out.
Yes, we have.
With families, with friends, with whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just something you gotta accept. It's a hard thing to do, but you gotta get over it. If you're gay, if you're trans, you're gonna have people who disagree with you. At the end of the day, they're not going to call home over your sexuality. The fact that they're calling home over the fact that you're trans is probably saying you need help. They probably just don't know how to vocalize it. But
Yeah.
this shouldn't be a law. This shouldn't be anything. Because this is not a line that teachers should be allowed to cross.
No.
When I was in school, teachers still asked you what you wanted to be called by. Not like
You have a nickname.
yeah, it was like, I'm named Jessica, I like to go by Jessie. That's the kind of nickname we're talking about. But if someone's name was Tyrone and they wanted to be called TJ, we do that. It didn't fucking matter. They don't usually call home over stupid shit like that. You have to be literally having issues, like harming issues.
Governor Newsom just signed Assembly Bill 1955 into law. It bans school districts in California from having policies that require parents to be notified about their child's sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression without the student's consent. That includes non-binary and transgender students.
We never had a problem when it was just being gay. Sexual orientation. Didn't have a problem. As soon as this gender ideology waved over all of our country, all of the world pretty much, is when started getting sketchy. It's sketchy.
It's weird that they want to talk to kids and not their parents. And it's also
About
weird.
their mental health issues.
It's also weird that you wouldn't just recommend they talk to a mental health provider.
Ooh.
If you're gonna call home, just say, hey, Timmy's had some difficulties in school. You might want to bring him to a counselor. Easy peasy.
I think that's another reason why they want to take away saying that transgender is a mental health issue. If you take away the fact that transgender is a mental health issue, then it becomes open for a lot of really creepy people to invade.
Identify as.
See, before, transgender people weren't allowed in the armed services, right? Because you can't have someone who's mentally ill in the armed forces. It doesn't make sense. They would just dishonorably discharge them. But now that they have changed the definition of what transgender is, transsexual is, to no longer be a mental health issue, It's creating a lot of chaos, and it's very unsafe, especially for children, because it's no longer seen as a mental health issue. These kids aren't getting mental health help for it. When it's severely a mental health issue, any transsexual will tell you it's a mental health issue.
Well,
So-
yeah,
so to
because
take-
you will have a disconnection between your mind and your body.
My
That is
question to-
literally
right.
the definition
My
of a
question
mental
to you
issue.
is, what is your opinion on why they took it off being a mental health issue?
I'm of a strong belief that the reason they don't consider it mental health issues is because they want false equality.
Can you explain?
Like, people like that want a false sense of equality. They want us to believe that everyone's equal, including if you have a mental health issue. But not everyone's crazy. And that's the problem. Is we act like everyone's like losing their mind. Everyone's got a little bit of a mental health issue, but they're not all the same. Otherwise, people who just beat their wives would be murderers. Always.
So why do you think that they removed it from?
Sorry.
Why do you think they removed it from being a mental health disorder?
Because these people fought so hard to say that they're just gay, basically. So they're the same as us. So they're trying to say transgender is a sexuality like homosexuality is.
But it's not.
Exactly.
It's an identity.
It's
an
a
identity.
it's a mental disorder.
I
Whereas
agree with
being
that.
gay is not a mental disorder.
I agree with that.
But they're trying to rationalize the people within the trans community are trying to say it's not a mental disorder.
Because gays aren't mental.
Yes.
But sexual orientation has to do with who you're attracted to.
Yes, and
Male
because
or
these people,
female.
because everything to
It
do
has nothing to do with attraction.
Everything
Trans has
with
everything to do
them-
with how you see yourself. You're in a psychosis.
But because of the way it is today, in a sense, it is their sexual identity because they make it their sexual identity. They are trans. They aren't, like, you hear trans lesbian, but what do you hear first?
Man.
Trans. Their sexuality
Yeah.
is involved with mutilating their genitals, which is where it becomes a mental health disorder.
Yeah. So they don't want to be looked at as mentally ill, even though they are.
Because they want to pretend that they're not. They want to say
So they want to make
wanna
everyone
live-
else pretend that they're not too.
They want any answer possible that makes them right.
So they're trying to change laws to fit their delusions.
Yes.
And California's
And they
going along
use-
with it because they're in a psychosis.
And they use homosexuality regularly as a see, they did it.
It's a blanket.
We do it.
It's
They
like a
did
shield.
it. We're like them with extra steps.
No, they aren't.
That's what they say. Yeah,
They're not.
they are. They're like us, but they want to chop off their dicks.
We don't want any of that. I like my parts and I like your parts. Keep them, please.
Extra steps. They have
Yeah, but you also have to do a lot of other mental
They
extra
have-
steps in order to be friends with or to date someone like that.
they have some kind of curiosity in their brain, which has indulged them in wanting it to be a real fantasy, a real
Called
life fantasy.
obsessive, like you're obsessed with yourself.
And so they push, and their best little showcase is gays. See the gays? You let them do it, let us do it. They're like the annoying little sibling.
No, the gays weren't trying to with your kids like they are.
They're like the annoying little sibling who's like, well, you let him do it, I want to do it too.
We weren't
You let-
talking to children about being gay. We just want to be left the alone.
You
Leave
let
us
the
alone.
gay people get married. Now you should let me chop off my dick and keep it in a jar next to my bed.
And talk to
Because
children about
I
it.
want to do it, and I want to go to Disney, and I want to tell them about it.
That's how it feels. I've come to the conclusion that majority of trans people, just in America, for example, majority of them are not transsexuals. They're just narcissistic, obsessive people in psychosis who have some sort of weird paraphilia and they need help because they're trying to live their youth through children. Well, I couldn't do it when I was young, so I don't want to have these kids go through it. But these kids aren't you.
And we live in a different
kids are
time. How
being
old are you? 40? Get out of here.
These kids are being taught this stuff all over the place. When I was in school, there were only a few transsexuals. Why? Because there were barriers that you needed to pass. Before, so many people were, what's the word I'm looking for? Were turned down by doctors for transsexual surgery because there were barriers. You had to go through steps. and the psychiatrist, the psychologist would be the one to say, okay, I think that, we've had enough therapy to show that this will help you. Buffalo Bill got turned down for sex change. I mean, I know it's a movie, but they were proving a point in the movie that if you are crazy and you want to inhabit the body of a woman and not her clothes, there's something else going on with you, and you probably shouldn't go through with this surgery. You should probably get mental health help and be on some medication or something.
I think it was the amount he was willing to go to be in a woman's body.
But when we go through the AGP stuff, one of the things about being trans nowadays is inhabiting a woman's body, not inhabiting her clothes. Does that not concern you? It concerns the shit out of me.
It's concerning, but it makes sense with what gender dysphoria is.
Yeah.
You would hypothetically want to be in a woman's body, not in their clothes.
Right. So,
But that's not always scary. It's scary what lengths people will go to for it. If you want to pump your body full of estrogen and you put fake tits in, I don't think that's necessarily too far because you're doing it all to yourself. Everything is self-inflicted, right?
Right.
But if you're killing people to get their body parts, that's
Right.
crossing a line.
Right. But what's also crossing a line is trying to make everyone you come across believe the same crazy shit that's in your head.
No, I agree.
That is also crossing a f***ing line.
Yes.
Or keeping
but what's the opposite?
secrets
See?
from their parents, children from their parents.
Do you see how this is inflicting harm onto someone else versus harming oneself? When
Yeah.
it comes to gender dysphoria, you will do a lot to yourself to change it, and that's within reason. But if you're willing to affect people other than yourself, then that's a problem.
Like
not
kids?
by telling them, like, oh, I think I'm trans, but like by
That's
doing
what teachers
stuff.
do all the time.
No, but I'm talking about adults. With children, it's completely different. This shouldn't be a topic. We are not.
These are what teachers are telling these kids this.
The thing is, especially elementary, middle school, into high school, maybe it changes, but in those adolescent years, they no kid thinks about anything but the fact that they have to pee and poop, and that's it. When it comes to that,
It's all in the moment.
That's all there is. There's no, these parts feel funny. There's none of that until, maybe some end of middle school, beginning of high school.
Yeah.
You do not have that feeling until then. And if you do, someone's touching you, and that's a problem. However...
You're talking, in majority of cases. Yeah.
Yes. And so this is not something that should be brought up in school.
No. And the fact that a child is coming to a teacher and talking to their teacher
About how they feel about their genitals is really fucked up. Really fucked up.
And keeping it from the parents is really, really messed up. This is not shielding a child or keeping their privacy. This is dangerous because you don't know what else the child is going through. Obviously, the kid's going through something, or else they wouldn't be thinking about this shit. So the fact that they are shows there's something else going on mentally. And if you're not taking care of it, you're not having you can't take care of it personally as a teacher. All you could do is keep the secrets, or unless you're doing something creepy on the side with the child. But you should be telling the parents, because those are the people who have the responsibility to take care of the kid.
You should tell them that if their kid needs at least some counseling. Maybe don't tell them that.
Just say, maybe talk to your child.
Yes.
You could just say that. But no, you can't say that. You got to keep secrets. Adults and children should not be keeping secrets.
That's the entire
from parents, man.
That's the entire reason they have CPS, and that's why teachers are supposed to be mandated reporters.
Not anymore. Now they're mandated secret keepers. Like and subscribe.